In my discussions about Missile Cav, I have yet to touch on the Bony Boys. Yes, the undead Bow Cav Skeleton Horsemen Archers for the Tomb Kings. This time Tesla up against Moore's Greenskins. So let's have a look at what they've got. Horsemen Archers, yeah, three Skeleton Horsemen Archers, getting some Nekara Horsemen here. Up front as well, Skeleton Warriors, obviously, double Tomb Scorpion with Ark and the Black leading the way, Chosen the Gods, Bow Shabti, and a Screaming Meme Catapult, which is a pretty strong pick against the Greenskins to try and do leadership damage to Stone Trolls, which we've got 2 Stone Trolls here, plus the Swamp Things. The Terror, while they don't, they won't terror out anything here, they will be immune to psychology because of that. I mean, they're in the Bob Blob anyway, but yeah, we've got Azag the Slaughterer here on foot with the Black Orc Boss. I like that quite a bit, actually. We've also got Wolf Rider Archers getting countered very nicely by the Skeleton Horsemen Archers. We'll talk more about that. Orc Boys up front with golden chevrons, which is pretty cool to see. This kind of sort of mid-tier sword and shield infantry is in vogue right now against Tomb Kings, so kind of trying to make Orc Boys into that. Makes sense. And we've also got the Moon Howlers, some more Wolf Cav as well. So, Skeleton Horsemen Archers, they're 500 points. And as such, they're on par in terms of cost with like Pistoliers, Yeoman Archers, stuff like that. They're decently cost effective. They don't do nearly as much DPS as Pistoliers, obviously, and that is a common problem to the Bow Cavalry specifically. They do less damage than your Javelins and your Gunpowder units, but they do have really nice range. 140 range is on par with some of the best Bow Cav in the game, and they will outrange even these Wolf Rider Archers, who themselves have 100 range, which is pretty short for Bow Cav specifically, and they're rate of fire also, DPS technically lower per model, but because they have more unit models, ends up being higher in practice. So the Skeleton Horsemen will want to avoid getting too close and getting, gadded by the superior DACA of the Greenskins in terms of volume, but the range advantage is definitely a thing. And I really like how Tesla's playing up from his artillery here. I want you guys to make a note of this, especially newer players. I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but you want to try and create some spacing when you're playing with artillery like this, and playing up with these mobile units, especially like countering his mobile units, Moore's mobile units, with your mobile units here in terms of what Tesla's doing, is a great kind of way to make that Screaming Skull and the Chosen of the Gods be more effective, and they've already done significant damage on the approach. 1 unit of gold Orc Boys, the veteran lads, already almost done. Of course, their extra leadership does help them hold out, but like blocking with these Nekara Horsemen here, it's pretty bad engagement. I mean, they did get some good damage on the Moon Howlers initially, but then Greenskin's able to follow up very well. But again, just creating this spacing, trying to buy as much time as possible for this artillery to keep firing before they get too close. And Skeleton Horseman Archers done some really nice damage so far, just countering, and also in terms of kind of battlefield role, countering enemy mobility is one of the kind of primary roles, right? We see all the time that those rear charge, side charges, the leadership issues that it can create is pretty significant, especially in the late game. And being able to kind of pick away your opponent's mobility and deal with their flexibility, they can't respond to things in the same way. And here, like the fact that the Wolves got involved in this engagement over here and kind of took some damage means they weren't really pressuring. They are faster, much faster than the Skeleton Horsemen Archers, and that's one of their biggest downsides, is that they are slow for Missile Cav. 76 speed is on par with some of the slowest Missile Cav in the game, but even that as it is, the fact they cause fear also means they're not completely useless in melee. They don't have really good melee stats at all, as you would expect for a lot of Missile Cav. But, I mean, the fact that they cause fear and that they're undead means that they have some distinct advantages, especially against a lower leadership faction like the Greenskins, which, while their WA is not active, will be very weak to that fear. Moon Howlers specifically do cause fear as well, though, so they can kind of negate that somewhat. And I believe the Mangy Marauders, who are also here at one point, are immune to psychology. Yep, they're over here, which is kind of random. They don't have good leadership anyway, so they'll still get routed quite easily, but they are immune to psychology, so the fear doesn't matter too much. Speaking of immune to psychology, Bob is body blocking here in the center. I haven't really been highlighting it too much, but mostly it's been Chosen of the Gods and the Screaming Memes raining in as this Greenskins blob kind of slowly grinds through the skeleton box. I say skeleton box, kind of the layers of skeletons. The skeleton onion would be more appropriate. And some nice debuffs here. Upgraded Doom and Darkness on all these Greenskins units. One final play as the archers were able to get in position and shoot most of the skeleton crew dead. But of course, they're skeletons. They'll keep firing even as they're crumbling. They can even just get 1 or 2 shots in the middle here with this upgraded Doom and Darkness. That could be pretty decisive, and you can see the stacking leadership debuffs. Aspect of Dread Knight is used to counter, give a little bit of extra leadership, and give that immune to psychology for where Bob is not. But Bob himself is getting worn down by Summon Du Shabti. They got a really nice summon surround on him. He is infantry this time, so he will be subject to that bonus versus infantry. A lot of the Greenskins units rout on that big terror bomb there, so very well done. I like that play quite a bit, using those stacking leadership debuffs to deal with the stone trolls. And all the meanwhile, you can see these skeleton horseman archers used up all of their ammunition and were able to more or less fully counter the mobility. I mean, I guess not completely. These archers were still able to get in the backline and shoot the artillery crew eventually, but skeletons are still around. They are still quite healthy with most of their unit models intact. They can come in and deliver some fear and rear charge penalties, especially like before the stone trolls get in range of that immune psychology, which they are already. And look at all these stacking buffs, man. This is kind of insane. You've seen the Marathi blob before, but how about the Bob Azag blob with Slaga's Slashes plus the Brass Cleaver giving significant melee attack buffs? Get on with it also gives leadership in addition to the Rabble Rouse's immune to psychology. Actually quite a strong blob there. Azag, of course, being a caster of death as well. But he is a decent combatant on foot, has armor-piercing damage, not the greatest melee defense, but he is going to get taken out here by the Scorpion and kind of the surround and everything. The Skeleton Horsemen just moving in for rear charges at this point, helping to clean up in the late game, as they do. If I can even find any. Yeah, they're around somewhere, I'm sure. You here chasing off some trolls. It's really the one healthiest unit left, kind of in this center area. A handful over here actually managed to beat the Moonhowlers, the very touted Moonhowlers in melee. Nicely done, lads. Doom Kings are definitely the least egregious of the undead, given their lack of healing, and they also have Missile Cav and other light cavalry, which is, you know, nice in my book. It gives them extra points. Fun stuff. Like the build from Tesla. Great job by him, and well played to AC Moore, of course, as well. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I really like the use of the Skeleton Horseman Archers to kind of counter Greenskins' mobility here, then allowing the main set piece, which is these, you know, the Screaming Meme and the Chosen of the Gods, which I have a video about the Screaming Meme, by the way. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and check that out. We'll be doing a video soon about Bow Shabti and Tomb Scorpions and some of these other units. Haven't really covered the Tomb Kings a ton, to be honest, up until this point. But anyway, Skeleton Horseman Archer is definitely a great core unit for them. One you should consider to have in your arsenal in a lot of builds, in a lot of matchups, especially where they can outrange your opponent's Missile Cav or their supporting units. So that would be like Warriors of Chaos, obviously, Greenskins, Norska, of course, is kind of the same as Chaos. Even Beastmen, I would say, although Beastmen's generally faster speed. All the Chaos factions, actually, with Hounds, could potentially catch those Horsemen and devour them pretty quickly. That also goes for Greenskins, Wolf Cav, and Spider Cav as well. So you have to be a little bit careful. Do keep in mind that slow speed, but they still give you all the utility of Missile Cav, you know, everything that you could want in a decent package. Like, they're not, if we could just kind of compare here, and Yeomen are not even a great unit, so I don't know that I'll necessarily even compare them. Okay, maybe I will, but still, I mean, Yeomen are really not that great of a unit, and compare the Skeleton Horseman Archers are pretty much on par with even more HP. Again, they're unbreakable, so that makes them, undead. That doesn't make them quite unbreakable. Their leadership's not high enough for that fully, to be functionally unbreakable, but it's still very hard to make them disintegrate. That slower speed is definitely a factor, but kind of comparable melee stats, and plus 15 range as well is pretty significant. As I mentioned, they are on the upper range. If we were compared to something more like an Elven Missile Cavalry, even Wood Elf or High Elf Missile Cav, you'll see that the range is a little more comparable to Elves, which is impressive considering they're just bony boys. Yeah, High Elves, or Wood Elves, I think are the best at 150, I want to say, with Glade Riders, if I remember right, and I believe Reavers are 140, yep. So Reavers are, I mean, on par with Skeleton Horseman Archers, and considering Skeleton Horseman Archers are 250 points cheaper than Reavers, you can see their stats are markedly worse in literally every single way, but they're so much cheaper. You get free healing from the Realm of Souls, they're unbreakable, they cause fear, and yeah. You can take 3 of these guys for every 2, or I guess not fully 2 Illyrian Reaver Archers. They did give them the price reduction, that's right, but still pretty close, right? Still a pretty significant difference. 200 points, I would say, is significant. So that cost effectiveness is decent. It's still, though, at 500 points, they're not as cost effective as something like their counterparts in that battle, who they did outrange. The Greenskins Cav, of course, is very cheap, the Mist Cav here, so it's hard to argue against them being the most cost-effective, but Skeleton Horseman Archers sit in a pretty kind of a happy medium, definitely. They're like Yeomen, but if they were actually good, because they have some other effects from being undead. That's basically the whole story. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again, we'll see you next time.